Okay, so what if I told you about a civilization that wasn't lost to some ancient cataclysm, but was so massive, so advanced that it couldn't be destroyed, so instead it was just hidden, carefully and deliberately, right under our noses?
And that quote right there, it says it all. It comes from the keeper of an archive that by all rights should not exist. And it frames this entire mystery we're about to get into. What if a global empire was intentionally erased from our history books?
All right, so our story kicks off in a really remote part of northern Vermont, inside a place called the Harmon Archive. Now, this isn't just some dusty library. For 4 generations, one family has been safeguarding documents and artifacts that were officially ordered to be burned to ash way back in 1947.
Now, this is where it gets really strange. The first piece of evidence is the building itself. I mean, get this, 2-foot thick stone walls, built with no mortar at all. And somehow, it maintains a constant 54 degrees Fahrenheit inside year-round, with no heating, no air conditioning, nothing. This thing is less of a building and more like a piece of technology. And inside this impossible room, etched into the very stones, is a measurement that shows up over and over again. 7.23 centimeters. Now that might seem totally random, but I need you to burn that number into your brain. It is the key that starts to unlock this whole thing. Because here's the thing, that number, it's not just a one-off thing in some weird building in Vermont. No, it's part of a massive pattern, like a fingerprint left on architecture all over the world. A pattern they call the Tartarian signature. And this leads us to the real head-scratcher. Right? I mean, think about it. The history books tell us that all these grand old courthouses, libraries, and city halls were built by different people at different times. If that's true, how is this possible? How can they share these ridiculously precise measurements? It's beyond coincidence.
So the theory that this archive puts forward is that these buildings were never independent projects to begin with. They were all built using a kind of master template. A master plan, if you will. And this plan is what creates that Tartarian signature, a whole set of repeating measurements so exact that it points to one single forgotten way of building.
And the scale of this pattern is it's mind-boggling. You see that column spacing? 7.23 meters. That is exactly 100 times the 7.23 centimeter measurement carved into the archive walls. And you see it in old courthouses, post offices, again and again. It's in the doorway heights, the window proportions. It's hiding in plain sight in buildings we walk past every single day.
So, okay, if this civilization was so huge, how on earth do you hide it? Well, the archives suggest the answer is kind of terrifying. It wasn't a war with bombs and bullets. It was a slow, quiet, administrative war. A war fought with paperwork. Okay, you want to see a perfect example? Look at the St. Louis World's Fair in 1904. The official story is that these were all temporary palaces made of plaster, built just for the fair and then torn down. But the archive evidence? It shows deep steel foundations, complex infrastructure. The claim is they weren't building these amazing structures for the fair. They were unearthing existing Tartarian cities, showing them off one last time, and then systematically burying them again.
And the method they used was just chillingly effective. It was a 4-step process. First, you reassign the buildings. Slap new names, new dates, and new paperwork on them. Then you relocate the people, scattering them to break up any shared memories. Third, you rewrite the records, literally erasing communities from the census. And finally, you remove the most obvious evidence, tearing down key buildings, and just calling it progress or urban renewal. But here's the thing. While all of this was happening, a secret resistance was forming, an effort to preserve the truth. The Harmon family, the keepers of that archive in Vermont, they weren't alone, not by a long shot. They were part of a global network. According to the archive's records, we're talking about 54 different families, spread across 12 countries. They were all given copies of the same materials, the same evidence, and they were all operating under one directive, something called the Cultural Continuity Protocol. The mission was simple: protect this knowledge, keep it safe until the rest of the world was ready for it. And you have to appreciate the sheer patience here. They have been waiting for a very, very long time. The mission started in 1947. They were even given a projected end date for the whole concealment, 2024. Well, that date has come and gone. The signal to reveal everything? It never came. So now, the choice, the burden, It falls on the few keepers who are still left. But all of this just leaves the biggest question of all, doesn't it? Why? Why go to all this trouble to hide an entire civilization? Well, a recently found audio recording from Eleanor's brother Marcus offers an absolutely startling explanation. It wasn't about malice. It was about fear.
In this tape from 1987, Marcus makes a shocking claim. He says the people who hid Tartaria weren't evil villains. They saw themselves as protectors. They were quarantining a history, and more importantly, a technology that they truly believed humanity was not mature enough to handle. So what was this technology that was so dangerous? According to Marcus, we're not just talking about cool buildings. We're talking about a functional network. These structures were nodes in a global system, a kind of planetary nervous system built on a totally different understanding of physics and energy. And get this, he believes that network isn't destroyed. It's just dormant. It's sleeping, waiting. So here we are. After 77 years of secrets and silence, the evidence has survived. The keepers, against all odds, have held up their end of the bargain. And it all comes down to this one final question. It's not about whether Tartaria was real. The question is for us, right here, right now. Are we finally ready to handle the truth? Are we ready to remember?